My name is Leopold Lucas and I'm responsible for business development of DTI in Australia. So to give a background of myself, I've recently actually graduated from university and I last year undertook part of my year overseas in Norway, and I studied a number of different courses over there. Subsequently, I went over to France and co-founded a startup in technology. And then when I came back to Australia, I decided, instead of going into legal practice immediately, that it would be interesting to look at technological opportunities in the law as well.
So you are a lawyer?
So I've finished the College of Law. I'm not admitted yet,
okay.
But I've completed all the requirements except the practical aspect of it.
Yep.
But yeah, so I joined DTI at the end of February this year and was quite heavily introduced into the company by going over to London and learning about all of the international aspects of the business over there. And then subsequently I've been responsible for going around in Australia and talking with a lot of different law firms, a lot of people in the business, and learning about what the needs of lawyers are and clients. And then seeing what opportunities there are going forward for our business and just generally LPOs into the future. So DTI, to give a bit of a introduction to the company, it was founded in 1998 in Chicago in the US, and we only actually became DTI last year as we were acquired. Previously we were called Merrill, and DTI is a legal process outsourcing company, and this year we've merged with a company called Epic, and we're now basically the biggest legal process outsourcer in the world. So we specialise in helping law firms and helping clients to reduce costs, increase the efficiency of the process, and to ensure that we can, make the provision of legal services more efficient for everybody. So we do that in a range of different fields, particularly globally. We're very well renowned for our e-discovery and managed document services, but in Australia we are very focused on transcript and real-time technology, which we've been doing for a number of decades here. So we work with Defence Force, with ASIC, we work in the Supreme Court, District Court. We provide our services to Royal Commissions and public inquiries to help improve the efficiency of those different hearings and different things like that. So yeah, it's a very interesting area, and I think there's a lot of developments going forward in helping improve the quality of legal services through partnering with law firms. Yeah.
And where are the outsourced people located? Are they sort of obviously all over the world, I imagine, but do you have sort of areas of concentration?
Yeah, so I think something that I should probably clarify is that we're not really one of those outsourcing companies which is just outsourcing, to cheap labour countries and just, providing processes that are going to be lower cost in that sense. We're based, our company here, we've got offices in Sydney right around the corner. We've got offices in Melbourne, all over Australia, and then, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, now China, all through the US and London and everything. So a lot of our outsourcing is actually domestic often. So when law firms engage us to do particular types of work, it's often in the same jurisdiction, which is quite interesting, because the State of the Legal Market report that came out last year showed a big decline in the outsourcing of foreign work for LPOs. But we're actually in a position where we're operating primarily domestically when we provide these services.
Can I ask you how law firms and lawyers manage their professional and ethical responsibilities when it comes to using LPOs?
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot of complexities, and with our company, because we're so global, there are a lot of factors to consider when dealing with LPOs, for example. And I know that the Legal Services Commissioner produced a report, I think 2013, that outlined a number of different steps for lawyers to take in ensuring that they could comply with the ethical guidelines that are imposed on them. So some of the key ones are obviously that when they're engaging an LPO, that they should obviously get consent from the client, because we are a third party, so they, if they're going to be sharing sensitive information, they've got to get the consent from the client initially. Then they also have to ensure that there is procedures put in place to maintain confidentiality if that's an issue that they need to consider. And then also they need to realise that at the end of the day they are under certain responsibilities to ensure that if something does go wrong, that they will have some aspect of responsibility. So it is important to look for LPOs or any service company for law firms and ensure that you're looking for quality and consistency in the process and the services that are being provided.
Can you just explain the benefits for utilising the services that your company provides?
Yeah, so in Australia, as I said, we're primarily providers of transcript in real time. So what we'll do is we'll be engaged by law firms or clients to help create efficiencies in court work and litigation. So for example, we did the recent Obeid litigation against ICAC. We're providing services to the Royal Commission and a number of very large class actions that have taken place. And what we do is we provide transcript that's in real time. You can annotate it, collaborate on it securely, and then you can ensure that you just have quicker access to the information so that the trial can be a lot quicker. And some inquiries that have taken place have estimated there's efficiencies of 25% in the amount of time just by this type of transcript. But then we often partner with a lot of electronic presentation of evidence providers. So we'll work with e-courts and we'll be able to present electronic documents so that saves time in the court procedure. But globally we do a lot of other things, and our big areas obviously e-discovery and ESI, document management. So that's using technology such as predictive coding to hugely reduce the amount of documents and material you need to go through in preparation for litigation. And this has been a very, very important part of the legal process in the last couple of years, especially because although we've had developments in technology, that's actually created a huge exponential amount of information, ESI, electronically stored information, which is now subject to discovery orders. So that means that you have to have effective systems in place to deal with that and cull it down so that you can actually get an effective result for your client.
Okay, and you're using that in Australia? Your company provides that in Australia?
We're not doing that in Australia. Okay. So we obviously just were taken over by DTI last year, and our business is in transcription here. So we're not sure whether that's going to be part of our future. There's a lot of different aspects to our business that we're looking forward to. But yeah, we're not really sure whether that's going to be a core part of it here. There's obviously a different jurisdictional element here. And
you work with lawyers in firms when it comes to providing real-time transcripts. And how have they embraced that? Does it vary from firm to firm, from large firms to small firms?
Yeah, well, it really depends on the nature of the trial. So we can have small firms who engage us for those services, or very large firms. Basically, there's you have the core element of it, and then you have the ability to have remote connections. So for large firms, it's very effective because often they'll have people coming into court to take notes or just to keep a track of the process, whereas with real-time transcript you can have someone sitting in Melbourne, you can have someone sitting in Brisbane, you can have the hearing going on in Sydney, and everyone can be collaborating in real time to do research and to create more effective outcomes. So smaller firms can use it as well to increase the efficiency of their smaller teams and bring in talent and different things. So yeah, we're sort of used by all different size firms and everything.
Are there any problems that have been experienced, any issues that have come up that you think need to be addressed in relation to that type of work?
In relation to real-time transcript or?
Yep.
I think it's just technology that people aren't really that familiar with. They are very, focused. Well, they've grown up with transcript as something that's a thing that you receive a couple of days later or a week later, or and they don't really know what real time is. They think, it's only useful for a very large litigation. And obviously it is, but there are also other benefits to it, and the technology's advanced quite significantly over the last couple of years. So I think it's just an awareness issue, really. Yeah.
And what other changes are coming around the corner for law firms as far as you're concerned and your company's concerned?
I think there's going to be a lot of changes happening. I went to a CPD presentation yesterday about blockchain held by UNSW, and there are just an incredible amount of changes happening. And another person who I've been quite interested in is Richard Susskind. I got a chance to meet him at the beginning of the year, and he obviously makes a lot of predictions. I'm sure you've heard plenty about his ideas already, but what is really happening is that there is a big shift in the way that legal services are offered, and you see a lot of big firms around in Australia even who are really focusing on innovation. They're spending a lot of money to create solutions for their clients that are not necessarily traditional legal solutions. And you know, that a big firm that I've seen being quite innovative, for example, is Gilbert and Tobin. They've got a lot of specialist legal knowledge. They have very, very good lawyers, and then they've invested heavily in the bottom commoditizable aspects through their investment in Legal Vision. So there are these sort of two-tiered aspects to it. There's very high-level services and then lower-level services, and I think the firms that are being innovative like this are the ones who are going to be able to go forward. Whereas I think there is going to be a lot of difficulty for firms in the middle level where there is partly commoditizable work, but it's, you know, very high levels of competition. And then at the lower levels, there are going to be legal solutions that are not traditional legal services in dispute resolution, in contracts, in agreements, in all of these different aspects. And, you know, this presentation on blockchain, this is a big buzzword at the moment, but it is quite incredible, the potential of what this technology can do in facilitating, you know, transactional areas of the law and just many different aspects of law and finance. So,
do you feel comfortable explaining that?
To explain blockchain, yeah. I could try. I don't know if you've had this before.
Give it your best shot.
Okay. Well, from my understanding, as a lawyer, not necessarily.
I think it's room full of lawyers. So
I think of it very much as the difference between centralised and decentralised processes. So, one interesting aspect in our jurisdiction is, you know, Torrens title, for example, came after old system title, and it was a solution to basically centralise the way in which title was passed and records were held, so that everything was, you know, defined by the registration of title. Blockchain to me is a little bit like old system title, but in a more decentralised way. And what I mean by that is that old system, you had to have all of the different deeds and have a chain of titles stretching back. That was a very long, laborious, inefficient process, and that caused a lot of income for lawyers, but a huge cost to clients. So what blockchain is essentially doing is it's allowing chain to be passed. So if you have an agreement, then everyone is essentially recording that who is involved in that chain. And then in order to produce these things, there's different ways you can do it. Blockchain is essentially the architecture upon which different things can be created. So you can have cryptocurrencies, or you can have, you know, contracts, smart contracts built on it. And what happens is that everyone has to essentially verify that action has taken place. So if it's a transaction, then everyone in the room is verifying it simultaneously and then recording everything as it's happening. So it means that there's no central body who's recording all of the things that are happening. It's everyone in the room, so it's very hard to corrupt. And this is being used increasing, you know, in Honduras, for example. It's being used in their land system registries because there's a lot of fraud that takes place over there in people actually stealing people's houses by registering their names on the title. So then, you know, there's a whole lot of different layers, and I don't think I have time to explain the complexities of it, but you can definitely Google it.
You've done pretty well.